So let's look at cost codes. Now cost codes fall below cost heads. So let's look at each one of them. So again, column A is something that gets populated automatically based on the changes that you make. Now I've put some shading on them so you can see what is happening. So we've got land acquisition costs over here. And under land acquisition cost, I've got a cost code. Now this cost code cannot be the same as your cost head. It will create a conflict and it will cause issues. So this is why if your numbering system, you need to do that at your end. Or if you already have an existing numbering system, then you can use that. But a cost head is the main head. So we're using, full numbers. So I jump them in 50, 100, 50, 30, depending upon the number of cost codes that I might have under that head code, so to speak. So in here we have land cost, for example. So over here I can come in and select land acquisition costs, other land acquisition costs, whatever that main cost code is. I can come in and select that. I can put in the cost code over here, and I can come in and put in the cost center over here. And this is the account head. So what we are trying to do here, we are trying to link that back into the account heads that we had. So each cost code has to be linked with something. So let me just zoom out a little bit so I can show you what it actually looks like. So we've got all your main cost heads, whatever you want a total for, in column B. So you can select them over here. You have your unique cost code over here, and whatever description you want to give that cost center, you got them over there. And then you have to link them back into the cost of goods sold or finance costs or whatever you want to use them. So this drop down is populated from the account heads that you've got here from column A. Column B, the drop down over here, is populated from column A over here. So as all of this is created, you can build your sheet as you go on. So if you come down here and there's a new cost code that's coming up, you can easily come in here and select the main cost head that you got. CyberWorks. Okay, I want to add something at CyberWorks. So I can go up here and look at what I already have in my CyberWorks developer. So like my last cost code was 7361, and if I wanted to give it a number, I can come in and give it a number. Let's say 73. I'll just give it 7361. It will immediately highlight it and tell me that this number has already been used. So if I'll have to go 7362, and it will say, okay, that's ready to go. And I can call it the new cost code for CyberWorks or whatever I've come up with. Then I have to come in here and select which main account head does it belong to. And most of the time it will belong into your cost of sales. And the last column is only applicable if you are from Australia and New Zealand, or if you are from UK and there's instead of GST they have VAT over there, and whether or not something includes VAT. So there's yes, it does include VAT. No, it does not include VAT. E stands for exempt, and GST free stands for GST free, basically. So basically you'll be using yes or no. So if whatever costs you actually post under this cost code, let's say $1,000 for this new cost code for CyberWorks, that $1,000, does that include GST in it? If it does, you need to select that yes over here. If it doesn't, you leave that blank and select no over here. So it is important that you either have yes or no in any one of them. And this will populate your cost code over here, right over here. So now if let's say I've added this over there, so 7350, let me go back into my sheet, and let me go back into my development cost over here. So we had CyberWorks developer somewhere just above the construction, so we've got it here. So we added 7362. So if I go here, you'll see that automatically it shows 7362 over here without even refreshing it. Now, if I go here and I click on save and refresh, it's going to start doing the calculations, which I don't want to do at this stage. But what I'm saying is that this is how you have to go and add them to your template. So each one of these, make sure that you do it carefully, but you only have to do them once. That's the whole criteria, that you don't have to keep doing it every time there is something new that pops up. So you can delete that. You can go over each one of these in detail. These ones have already been added to the template. So anytime you create a new sheet under CyberWorks, these ones will automatically come there. But if you were to go and add a new one, I'd say go back into your main sheet, where the lead developer's feasibility sheet that you created, add that in there, and then save that as your template. Save a copy of it as your template, so that next time you just go and pick your template and you'll see that it's already there. So it's not going to keep adding that automatically to this template, because it's not there to begin with, because you are creating it. That is why the option for you to be able to pick your template was added, so that you don't have to keep adding these things again and again. So we've got other acquisition costs, we've got other sections over there. Now you can click on, okay, so you can click on this side, any of these rows, right click on that thing and click insert one below. So when you do that, it creates another row over here, because let's say I've got one new cost code that I wanted to add under other land acquisition costs. So I'll basically go 7001. I'll select land acquisition cost. The good part is that the reason we use a numerical as well as a alphabetical description is because you can search for them either by number or by acquisition costs, because that's all you could remember at the time. So if I would go ACQUI, it'll show me that this is where it is. That is the reason we've used that. And if you remember the number that whatever number that you used, that was 7001, so you can select that by the number as well. So it depends on whether you are a numbers guy or you tend to remember things more by their description. You can do that. Now let's say I want to add something over here. So this is 7014. I naively go in and I put 7015, it's going to go boom, there is already a 7015 already used over there. So I will have to use something like 7016, and 7016 is a unique number. I can use that over there. It has to be unique, so this is important. So I can call it the new cost code, for example. I can come back and select that. I can come back and select the GST as not applicable, or N, which means no, there's no GST. Now, people in US and Canada, don't worry about this column at all. Whether you put in a value or you don't put in a value, it is irrespective. It just looks nicer if everything has a yes or a no against it. That's all. It would make no difference when we do these calculations. And the moment in your company info you selected not applicable, all calculations related to GST will not affect your bottom line at all. So we've got, let's say our new cost code is 7016. I can quickly go into my sheet and see where I need to add that. So in this scenario, we have added that under 7001. So I'll just quickly go up over here and select 7001 and add 7016 over here. Whoops. And select this one over here. If I don't remember the number when I'm here, all I remember is that I called it new. So I'll just put new cost code and it will automatically pop up over there as well. So some really cool features, pretty fast as well. So go through these cost codes, see what each one is. Now, I have already spent the time and the energy to have these cost code cost codes and cost heads. I've organized them in a sequential manner, in the sense that they mimic the way a real development unfolds. The costs that come up in that sequence, these costs actually come up in the sequence. So there is land settlement, there are other land acquisition costs. So if you follow them along, you will notice that those are the things that come up as costs as we progress through the development, as your development project unfolds. So we've got statutory fees and contributions, stuff that we pay to the local council or the municipality or the zoning department and all these things, because they are asking you to pay a levy or a fee, because you're now going to put a load on the existing infrastructure that your city or county or council or municipality already has for that site. So those are there. Then we've got our finance and interest costs, and each one of them, you'll see that for land we have the land loan application, interest, line fee, setup fee. We have the same 4 things for land refinance. We have the same 4 thing for developer equity. We have the same I've added some of them. Some of them got added haphazardly as I went along and I started doing my developments, and I realized, these kind of costs come up, and I kept adding them. So the numbers may not be sequential because they are from my developments. They have been added as and when I was doing my developments and coming across all these costs. So you can go ahead and change all of them and go through and set up your own template and perfect it to the way you want to do it. But it's easier because it's easier to use what they are and maybe change their name to what you are familiar with. So if you are already doing developments, you would be familiar with all of these costs and everything. If you aren't, then I think I would recommend that you go into my property development system course that talks about all these costs and all these issues and everything that come up, and what they are, why are they required, and so on. So we've got finance ancillary costs, holding and running costs. We've got site works that sometimes the developer has to do before it is given to the construction contractor. We've got budgeting and estimation costs that we pay to the quantity surveyor, or for a cost plan, or a lender imposed quantity surveyor. Sometimes you have to get takeoffs, because you have to keep this in mind that I used to run my construction company myself. So some of my cost centers have certain construction costs that we used to incorporate and handball to the developer, to the developing entity, so to speak, because I was on both sides. So we had to create a balance between the cost of construction to appease the bank, and for the developer hard costs and so on. So it was totally fluid, and that's how these cost codes have been put together. So if you go into your service connection fees, gas fees, all these things, drawings, consultants, site reports, permit fees. Now you might have different names for different permits. Definitely go in and change these names. You might have different reports that you need to get for your site. So definitely go in and change all of them. But you don't really need to change the cost codes. But if you do, you have to go and see where they are. And what will happen is that if you change something over there, I'll show you an example. So if let's say under site reports, we have something called DDA compliance. Let me just change that to call it test, right? Now I've just gone and changed this name to test over here. So if I go over here, what was this section? Site reports. So if I go into my sheet and I go into my site reports and I scroll down, now that DDA compliance thing will pop up, as it will start going red very soon as it is updated. So if I go save and refresh over here, it's going to refresh everything and show me that okay, finish running please. And what it is doing, it is going and picking up this data from here from the sheet. It's getting that sheet updated, and when I come back here, it should show me 7532 as another Costco. So you will have to go in there and make sure you update that over there. So always remember that that needs to be done as soon as you make these changes, so that your sheet has all these details in there. So it is important that you understand that making changes over here would also mean that you need to go and make these changes in your template. Then you can call it and change the name to call it a template or whatever you want to call it, and then go from there. And every time pick your own template when starting when creating a new feasibility sheet. So that's about it for the master data. And under here there's a section, development equity. So you can change the name to, it just says developer equity DE 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. You can make it 20, you can make it 5. If you don't use it, leave it as it is. Don't really need to do anything. These are different loans over a period of time. I had about 29 of them. I don't know, from 8071 to all the way to 8129. So these were different kinds of loans, different entities that I had worked with, and I kept adding them, so I had to delete all of them. But I left them in there because if you want to change them, call it, let's say, name of bank, and you can describe the facility there, line of credit, or this could be loan from the director. You can call that loan from director. And what this will do is create these new cost codes over there, so that for each development entity you might want to use a different name. So this director, instead of director, you might want to call it Mr. XYZ. But when you go and do another development, this could be loan from Miss ABC. So you could change these names and they will create a cost code for them. You might even use them for just one particular development, but it is important that you address them, because there's no shortage of the rows that we have here in order to do that. So you can use them in one and not use them in another. That is absolutely fine. So that's how we use our cost codes. Now this is one last one. It is not used anywhere in this feasibility application, but as I said, there is a Lead Developer Plus, and sometimes in Lead Developer Plus you have multiple bank accounts for one development entity, and what you're doing is you're paying off, you're transferring money between the same entity. So we wanted to track them of how that was happening, so we created a cost code for it. It's called 8499, and we just leave it as it is. And anytime I move money from my one bank account to another bank account that belong to the exact same development entity, I use this, because I'm not paying any GST, there is no income, there is no loan, nothing. All it is that it has been transferred. And in order to be able to track that, it needed to be allocated a cost code, and that is why it's there. So if you go through all of these, update them, you only have to do them once, remember. I can't stress that enough. So this is LD master data, or you can start using them as it is, because as you go through each one of them, you will see that most of it is already covered here, and they serve as a checklist anytime I'm doing a feasibility, because it reminds me that this could be an issue in the feasibility and I need to allow for it. So that's how it works. So I will see you in the next video. We'll cover job codes and stages, which is pretty small, and we'll show you how they have an impact on the main sheet.